The title of this session is K-12 Schools and Classrooms. And what I'm really excited about is that we have three different perspectives, one kind of from an industry research point of view, one from a university research point of view, and one from a school district point of view. And I really like the way that all three perspectives are going to kind of center around and talk to one another. So I'm very excited to announce our first speaker, Dan Meyer. Dan Meyer. Dan asked me to keep this very short and sweet. He wrote, please just say Dan taught public high school math in California and currently works in educational technology at Amplify and is excited to talk with all of you. I'm going to augment this just slightly, not too much. Dan also got a PhD in mathematics education at Stanford University. Prior to working at Amplify, he was director of research at Desmos. And if you've ever had a high school student, you know what Desmos is. Before his current position as VP of user growth at Amplify, he was director of research at Amplify. So I am very excited to welcome Dan Meyer.
Hey, thank you for that intro. Much longer than I had explicitly requested, but I'll forgive it. Presenters are people too, okay? So I just want to be really raw with you. I'm feeling a little bit like an exposed nerve right now, currently. Maybe a little bit overly antagonistic. One is that my plane got in past midnight last night, so I'm underslept. I can be polite. I have that in me to be polite, but not on this level of sleep. And I also taught 8th grade mathematics on Monday all day, like all day. I used to do that for a career. And you can make life easy on yourself as a researcher or in industry like me by just not going into classes. Like that's a real easy way to go about it, right? Or to observe one class. That's a nice way to go in, adrenaline's high, the kids kind of perform, Another way to go about it is to teach the whole day, and that's when the real physicality of the work of teaching reveals itself in ways that I haven't experienced in a while. I'm like, oh, like there's a bell that tells me when I, a grown man, am allowed to go to the bathroom, to go potty, Like I can just get a snack whenever I want to at my current email job, but I can't do that at school. And so it was, I just feel like really, I got beat up. I got my ass kicked by these 8th graders, mostly figuratively speaking. And I also taught the whole day in Spanish, which is like barely a second language to me, but I did that, which really simulated the experience of being a first-year teacher. Again, like the cognitive overload, the bafflement of like, what are these kids saying to me? Felt familiar from my first year of teaching. That's the energy I'm bringing here right now, which you might feel here and there throughout my talk. I really tried to do justice to my academic training and bring to you a different title than the one I have here. I thought about something of this nature, but then I just realized that's just not me. It's not me. So here we are. This is what we're doing. Here's some extra intro to me. My professional loves are these. I love the power of technology to connect us socially, to enable creativity that we haven't been able to do without these digital tools. I love that. I love the depth of mathematics. It's the room that it has at its best for human subjectivity, not just pure, calculative, raw objectivity. And I love the brilliance of kids. I love how when I'm talking with a kid in Spanish about El Teorema de Pythagoras, or whatever I'm talking about, they offer ideas that to me are baffling. Like, where are you getting this from? And if I stick with it for a while, I come to realize and adopt their perspective. And that membrane between the self, me, and the other, them, that I thought was impermeable, starts to dissolve. And that is basically a religious experience for me that I have had in education. I love that. And I also want to name the fact that these right here this is not an unordered or random list for me. This right here is an ordered list, a priority list, where I'm very aware that technology undermines mathematics very often. Like I'm having kids, use exponents and square roots in this lesson on Pythagoras, right? And those are really hard to write using a computer. Like it undermines that expression. Or, for instance, I'm very aware that mathematics is used frequently as a weapon to hurt the kids I care about, to turn people into profit. That math class itself, less maliciously but more commonly, is used to tell kids, you're not good enough. The thoughts you have right now in your head that you think might be mathematical, those are not mathematical thoughts. These here, mine, these are mathematical thoughts. And that does injury to kids. I'm trying to say here, when I say my title is Believe Fewer Lies, I'm mostly talking to myself. And I find it easier to believe some very seductive, well-funded lies about AI and ed tech when I lose sight of this priority list or its ordering. So, two things seem true to me right now about the world of ed tech. One of them is that if you want any attention or funding, be it grant, philanthropic, venture, on anything you're doing, it behooves you to attach it to AI somehow, to make sure that people know that your lemonade stand has a retrieval augmented generation attached to it, for instance. The other thing that seems really true to me from being in schools, working with kids, and teachers, is about teacher usage of AI. I'm very grateful to groups like Education Week and RAND for doing some pretty rigorous surveying of teacher use of AI, not relying on the press releases from people in my industry. And Education Week back in December 2023, this is about a year after GPT 3.5 was released, they asked a nationally representative panel of teachers, so what's your usage like of these tools? Any guesses back then? This is, again, a year after GPT 3.5. What percent of teachers said, I use them a lot, these tools? Hit me. 10, 5, 3, 1, 17, 60. Okay. So, answer winds up being, just for your edification, it winds up being 2%. That I use them a lot. Okay? We're playing Price is Right rules, so only the 1% answer won that one. So that's surprising to some of you folks. Are you surprised by this information? Many people said, I am not surprised by this information. I am too savvy to be surprised, they said. For instance, Ethan Mollick said, well, these people are all using the free tier, GPT 3.5. They're not using GPT-4. And if you're not using GPT-4, are you even GPTing, bro? So there's that. There's other folks, the people that sell AI training services into schools. They said, we are not surprised by this. Oh no, what these people need to make number go up is AI training services for schools, which, by the way, we provide. And there were other people who said, look, teachers are busy. They just need the summer. Give them the summer to play and tinker and adopt. They'll get it. Lucky for all of us, Education Week, smash cut to October 2024, almost at the start of this school year, almost a year after that initial survey right there, they went back and asked the same questions. And great news, folks, teachers have had the summer. Great news, folks, we're now off, the free tier is now GPT-4, Great news, folks, 50% more teachers say, I've had AI training at my district. Okay? So I'm just curious, how well do you know teachers, folks? What percent of teachers now say, I use them a lot? 2, 5, maybe 3, 7. People have been burned. I'm hearing from fewer people. People have been burned here. Okay. Answer winds up being that you need a microscope to see the difference. The answer winds up being there's almost zero change in any category. Yeah, you're congratulating yourself, but you were not very vocal with your answer, so partial credit, but nice. Yeah, and so here's my question that I'd love to help us answer a bit is why? Like why after 10 months and all those changes to the models, time to practice and play, what is not catching on here? Let's give you folks, because I'm from the world of K-12, we're going to do a turn and talk, folks. Okay, so would you folks think for a second and then share an idea with someone at your table? What's the deal with teacher usage? Why has it not changed in those 10 months? Over to you folks. Bring it on back, friends. Bring it on back. I hope that was nice for you to get to know the people you've been sitting with all day, just a little bit, just a smidge. Here's 3 hypotheses that I'll offer for why AI usage in schools has not taken off at anywhere near the hype, at anywhere near the predictions back in 22 or 23. Like, I don't know what to tell you. Like, there's data, there's anecdata, there's stories. I live in Oakland, California, not far from the Silicon Valley. So I'm working with teachers all throughout. I got teachers who are in San Jose, California, in the Silicon Valley, family who's a special ed educators. And I don't know how to communicate to you in words or data just how comprehensively, from my perspective, this technology has failed to capture the imagination of practicing K-12 teachers. It's just, I'm baffled by it, especially relative to the hype and the funding. I just don't get it. There is a huge mismatch here between expectation from so many and what is actually going on. Here are 3 ideas about that. One is that AI sprawls rather than unifies a teacher's workspace. Let me see if I can get this going here. This right here, and I want to say, I don't know what your projects are on, your research, your research or your posters. Like this is a hashtag not all AI situation, but I am referring to the dominant AI tools that are on offer, commercialized in schools. Okay, so this is the exurban AI edtech sprawl, where teachers are using, on average, they have like 49 different logins, one study found, 49 different tools that they use on a regular basis, 49 of them, okay? And over here is the teacher, right? And the teacher has all kinds of context that's important, some of which is behind a login wall. The student information system, the achievement tracking platform, the curriculum, the practice platform, the PD, goal setting platform, all of these important contexts. There's other context that is not behind a login wall, but it's as important or more. The context of the school, what are our initiatives, of the student, what challenges, what assets, what hopes and aspirations do they bring, the challenges of the neighborhood in that context, like what is that neighborhood dealing with? All that is important context, and in this sprawl, AI is over here. And what AI says, and I believe this is true, is, teacher, I have read more words than you could read in 1,000 lifetimes. I've done that. And I can rearrange them in ways that are so powerful and instantaneous, you could not possibly dream of it. I believe all that is true. AI then says to the teacher, what'll happen here is all I need in the deal is for you to take all of your context, put it in writing, and bring it over to me. Put it in my context window, and in return, I will make for you automatically, instantaneously, a worksheet that you could not give away for free on Teachers Pay Teachers. That's the deal, folks. That's the bargain that AI is offering to teachers right now in these teacher co-pilot tools. Hashtag not all AI, okay? That's the deal. And what we're seeing is that teachers will try this out. They'll create an account. The login numbers are through the roofs. The registrations are through the roof. But when I talk to founders, ex-employees, the ones who will talk to me, they do tell me retention numbers, the repeat usage is in the toilet, because I think teachers see all the work they have to do to bring all of that context across the sprawl over to the Copilot tool. Another, AI works around rather than through human relationship. And this is especially a word of caution to those of you who are interested in student-facing chatbot tutors. I'm going to express a mindset that you might not have personally. It is prevalent in this world of AI ed tech. So many education technologists, researchers, private, public, all around, they see a class of even modest differences, and they say, my God, this is a problem. Like, these kids, they're so different, who they are and how they think. How could one teacher possibly manage all of this variability? We have got to get them away from each other. No, farther away from each other. We got to get noise-canceling headphones on them. Got to put laptops in front of them. Problem solved, folks. We'll get them the right content to the right student at the right time, and learning will happen. They can't conceive, these people, of learner variability being an asset. It's only a liability in this conception. And this has failed comprehensively. This model has failed since the 40s with Sidney Pressy's teaching machines, when kids would press a lever on a cylindrical tumbler and get their next question if it was right. This model has infinite appeal and has failed comprehensively. And the reason why, as you all, I think, know better than me, is that learning is just hard. Like, it is hard to encounter the fact that what you know is not enough. It describes too little. You got to take the wiring in your brain, rewire it somehow. It's hard and not fun, and most people will opt out if given the choice. You know this is true when you try to take on some personal physical fitness goal, you know? Like, you are there trying to well, I'll just say, what helps this kid right here? What helps this kid right here push through the impulse to opt out of the hard work of learning? What will help that kid understand, I can do this, I should do this, I must do this? It is not this right here. That is not the thing. It is these. It is these people. It is these people in a group. It is it's feeling the belief of your teachers, feeling the adulation of your peers when you have an idea that is more valuable than you originally thought, when they see value in you that you don't see in yourself. That is what makes learning easier. And it does not happen with the laptop and noise-canceling headphones. That's the challenge. So finally, I would just say, I see these AI tools. They add one more login, taking 49 logins to 50. And in exchange, they really just nibble at the periphery of the challenges of education and not at its core. They are oftentimes point solutions that require a lot of one-time like login cost that don't tackle the core of what teachers are working with. This is not teaching's core challenge. This is often conceived of by people who have a very strong background in technology, and they see students as like walking, talking hard drives who just need the right read-write operations on them and call that learning. They conceive of this as an information delivery problem. Get the right content to the right kids at the right time, problem solved. But teachers know better, that the core challenge of education is instead making good use of the learner variability that exists in every classroom in ways that strengthen social bonds that make learning effective and engaging for kids. Like, teachers aren't confused on this point. They know it's hard to have 35 kids who know different things, who attend at different rates, who've got different kinds of, nourishment, malnourishment, sleep deprivation, resourcing. They know that's hard. And they know they could put them all on laptops with noise-canceling headphones, but they know that that dissolves the social bonds that makes the whole thing work. They get that. And what I see in AI is an attempt to eat at small problems on the outside and not tackle that core right there. So I don't know, folks. I hate to paint a grim note on this whole thing. If you were to ask me what technology I'm most excited to work on at Amplify, where I work, I would say generative AI. I know, it's weird, right? Here's the thing. I think a lot of the issues here are not with the technology, but the systems surrounding it, the impoverished pedagogies that people bring to this technology. Can I share with you? Maybe I can. That seems risky. Are you going to stay? Cooperate with me. I need one thing to go right here, okay? Here's the deal. I'm going to share with you something I've been working on. This is the first time I've shared it with anybody. I'm going to do it on hotel Wi-Fi, see how it goes. You never know. Sounds risky. And what I'm trying to do is figure out how to develop technology that unifies a teacher's workspace, that works through, not around, human relationship, and that tackles at that core challenge, as I've conceived of it here, as I described it. What would that look like? Let's find out, shall we? Here it is. Here is our sixth grade math curriculum at Amplify, the warm-up of a lesson right here. We're asking students as a warm-up to capture these 4 sand dollars. Oh, how nice of us. We've given kids a starter coordinate right there. You press try it. You see a little curious crab, do a little dance, grab that sand dollar. I'm not going to ask Mitch and the logo team to acknowledge paternity of this micro world here of mine, but I will claim them as my parents, as my lineage, okay? And so someone toss me another coordinate that'll grab us a sand dollar here. Go ahead. 5-5. Let's see. Oh, no sand dollar there. No sand dollar. Nope. Anybody else here? Great guess. 3, 4. Try that one out. Okay. There is that sand dollar there. We got 2 more to get. Can anyone tell me? I'm not going to ask you for the right answer here. This one is 4-0, and this one is 1-5. Does anybody know one of the most common ways that students are wrong here? What would a wrong but thoughtful student say right now? A wrong but thoughtful student will often say 0-4. And I just want to say, in the current ed tech landscape, what happens most often is the software tells the kid, you're wrong. That's it. It'll give them like a resource maybe. Maybe an AI chat bot will pop up and say, I can help you be right. But what it won't do often is help the kid understand what was smart about what they did, even though they were wrong. And that's what we're trying to do here. And we don't have a red X or a green check. We just show you, hey, here's what you did right there. And the kid gets to say, oh, like I nailed the 4. Like I wanted a 4 thing, I did a 4 thing. And there's more to do, and the kid has this moment of discovery and revelation. One thing that our curriculum, I think, does quite well is foster through these micro worlds and feedback. It awakens thoughts in students they did not realize they had. It invites their thoughts, which winds up being a problem in a moment. Here's our next screen. There's another sand dollar, but we don't see it. I need someone to tell me a coordinate, any coordinate. It will likely be wrong. That's good. -2, -3. I am terrified. Yep. Hey, that's neat. I thought we might just throw an error or say, can you please get with the program, kid? You know, can you do what you're supposed to do, kid? But we've responded in ways that do honor what the kid was doing there, okay? What else here? Another coordinate guess. That was not right. Let's try another one. 4-4. Okay, here we go. And then we see right here, there's this. How should we change our answer to accommodate this feedback we've received? 3-3. Let's try it out. Maybe there? Okay, great. No, not yet. Oh, interesting. Okay. Which number needs to change? The first one or the second one here? Which number changes? Great questions for kids. Do I go with 2-3 or do I become a legend and go for 1-3, huh? What's the play here, folks? 1-3. Let's be a legend. I should have played that more cautiously. My mistake. Always play it cautiously. Okay. What's happening here is that kids' thoughts are getting activated, and that becomes really interesting in this moment when we say, hey, here's a new map. Check this map out. Okay, here it is. And we ask kids to write, and this is weird in ed tech, to write in free response their thoughts, a clue that describes the new location of this coordinate right here. Would someone offer a clue that you might offer if you were a 6th grader who is not yet comfortable with coordinate notation? What might you say here? Top left. I love it. Happens all the time. Top left, okay? Great stuff. And so let me just share with you what happens here on the teacher side now. On the teacher side, this gets really rough because we now have all these students who've been primed to believe that their thoughts matter because of those first 2 screens. And they do. We agree, right? Students' thoughts matter. And the problem, though, is that the teacher now has 33 thoughts from students who believe their thoughts matter and want to believe their teacher sees that. And the teacher has the imperative now to take these thoughts right here and make more out of them than the sum of their parts. We ask teachers to facilitate a discussion, to select and sequence and connect all these different responses. And honestly, it's work that it's super heroic. Like, you're looking at this, you're reading it from your comfy chair in a hotel. Be a teacher, all right? There are kids asking to go to the bathroom. There are kids whispering in the corner. What are they up to? It's always the quiet ones, the whisperers. Got to watch out for those ones. I should be doing this to you to simulate the cognitive overload of trying to make sense of all these responses in the middle of a 6th grade class. It is very hard work. Good pedagogy that responds to student thinking. So, what we've done is this right here. This is wacky. I'm going to press reload, and I'm going to trust that what is supposed to happen will happen here. Okay. So here it is. Here's these thoughts. Take a look at the thinking right here. Do you notice any trends, any themes in student responses that you could build on? How would you facilitate a discussion here? Oh Oh, okay, what is this? What is this? Better Together is ready. Click here to access your new discussion moment. Okay, we click on this, and here we go. We got this right here. And there is the original screen right here. There is some narration, which the teacher is welcome to ignore. But many teachers could use some help here. So you could say, hey, you all had some interesting answers to this question right here. Let me zoom out a little bit. Here are two of them that might be better together. Jesse said, from the other sand dollar, walk 6 left and 1 down. Dorothy said, move 4 spaces to the left and 2 spaces up. Which one of them is correct? Their numbers are different. There's no way they're both correct, right? Or is it possible they're both correct? Tell a neighbor what you think both kid is thinking here. And that's it. That's called a discussion moment. Those moments happen 4 times a lesson, and every time when I see those, I'm like, that's going to be really hard for a teacher. That's really hard to do all that in the moment, create that discussion moment. What we have done here is the following. Let's see, how's my time? My time's great. Time's great. I'm going to talk about cookie recipes. We've taken 33 student responses. We've sanitized them for PII, and we fine-tuned an LLM prompt here, added to it 2 criteria. I wrote these. That's my writing right there, okay? It's not great prose, but what it comes from is I looked at 1,000 student responses and noticed that kids were answering not in 1,000 different ways, but a couple pretty common ways. They were very interesting. And I would like to use that insight that I had, drinking coffee, going to the bathroom whenever I wanted to, eating snacks for my email job. I want to use that insight to support teachers in the moment of instruction. So, wrote that. We send that with an LLM prompt, all the student responses, to find a response that meets criteria 1 but not 2, and 2 but not 1. Go get them. Fly, fly, fly. Go get them, okay? And bring me back 2 if they exist. Ignore it if they don't. And then we have this discussion template called Better Together, which opens up whenever there are these 2 responses that have these 2 criteria. That's that template right there. And finally, there's some teacher narration, which I wrote and teachers can ignore. But I see this as possible professional learning for teachers, not in a 6-hour PD session 4 times a year, but in the moment of practice, like having a coach, a TA, right there to support your students and your own growth. And we're just wrapping up a 2-week pilot, maybe a dozen teachers. I'm not going to call them representative of anyone but themselves. I will say that their usage numbers and their interest in seeing more of this particular AI feature are diametrically opposed to those results right there. Like this, I think, hits those challenges more squarely than current AI products do. I would love to know your thoughts here. I have a few minutes. I'll turn it to you folks just to think about in what ways, let's see here. Whoa, that's way off. In what ways here has that technology tried to, I won't say successfully, but did it try to meet these challenges? Take 2 minutes. Over to you folks. 2 minutes. Pick one of those 3 challenges. Did it meet it? Did it not? What's it doing? Over to you. Yeah, cool. All right. Yeah. So, folks, thank you for your thoughts here. I was really nervous about one person's reaction in particular on this one. This is, in the math ed literature, this is called the 5 practices for orchestrating discussions. It involves anticipating student responses, monitoring them, selecting them, sequencing, connecting them, and I've come to the conclusion that it's just too hard for mortals. Like I've tried to do it as a veteran teacher. It's very hard. We've identified and amplified that AI can support 2, 3, maybe 4 of those actions. It will not connect for students, with students. It doesn't connect socially, cognitively. That is the work that we still imagine teachers doing here. This discussion moment won't work without AI. It won't work without humans, which makes it a little bit novel in our field, I believe, without being too self-aggrandizing. It's very early days. We're working on it. So I want to just, as advice to myself, probably not to you, you don't believe any lies yourself, but there are just enormously well-funded lies out there, and you can get paid, get research funding to echo back, to soothe the billionaire class with the lullabies that they like to hear about education and students, mathematics and learning. Like, Lies like, I want more logins in my life, and teachers will too. Like a full password manager is a happy password manager, is a lie that's available to you to adopt for fun and profit, right? Or like perhaps you. Like I like talking to my chatbot friends, and students will as well. It's very easy to fall into this particular line. Or that what teachers need most is a parent email generator. We have solved the teacher attrition crisis, folks. You can generate a parent email automatically. We got it, done. There is what people need. There's what technology does. There's obviously an overlap here, but there is so much incentive on all of us to confuse, to just wish away the parts of people's needs that technology can't solve, to confuse the subset for the whole, to say, well, if tech can't do it, then people must not need it. These lies are easy to adopt and take up. I find my work improves when I believe fewer of them, and I try to inoculate myself against believing those lies by getting my ass kicked by 8th graders every now and again. How do you believe fewer lies? That's all I got, folks. Thank you for your time.
Sydney. All right, our last speaker in this session is Alexander Fishman. Alex is the manager of digital learning design and instructional Gen AI at Chicago Public Schools. Alex has a master's in elementary education and teaching from the University of Chicago. Was an undergrad degree from Chicago? History, right? 20 years experience teaching in classrooms, and I just want to say that we've had a number of interactions with CPS and how they're thinking about Gen AI in particular, and I've been consistently impressed. So please welcome Alex.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I'm obviously in a room with a lot of very smart people, and I've been learning a lot. And so I think what I'm going to try to do is not lead with any of my opinions. I don't have a thesis on AI to share with you. Instead, I want to invite you to have a glimpse at some of the work that's happening in Chicago Public Schools. Work that I believe could be significantly improved by any one or many of you engaging with us and building together with us. So you maybe won't walk away with your mind changed about anything around AI, but maybe you'll grab the email from the last slide and connect and build with us. That's my hope. So first of all, I'm not doing this alone, so I stole this from a deck we used for a number of other presentations we do. And the reason we get to do this is, as the 4th largest public school district in the country, we did something unique a couple of years ago, and we stood up our own curriculum, which we call Skyline. Today, it's in most of the schools in at least one content area. And what that means is that we have a robust amount of information about what we think is some really high quality instructional materials. We also think it's vertically aligned and culturally responsive. And that's pretty important for the next things that are to come. So I'm glad that Dan mentioned all the clicks that teachers have to go to, because basically part of my job is making sure that all those clicks work and that teachers can actually get to what they need. This is a visualization of the digital learning environment that I'm kind of the steward of, which involves a lot of different components and includes tons of different products that teachers are trying to get to. But what we try to do is make sure there's a single sign-on and things just work. We realize that having that architecture and that amount of educational guidance and content is quite useful when we're thinking about building with artificial intelligence. So part of what we're trying to do is think about how we can not build something new and off to the side, but build on all these things that we have in our ecosystem. We gave it the nickname Sky because Skyline and AI, so obviously, and we're working on this project in 3 phases. Right now we're in phase 1, and we're working not to reach those couple hundred thousand students, or those tens of thousands of teachers. We're working to serve a group of about 25 amazing curriculum designers that work in my department. These are almost exclusively folks like me who come from the classroom, but unlike me, many of them have PhDs and they're literally the best at what they did in the classroom. And now they're building curriculum with us. We're trying to imagine what a true co-intelligence could look like that would serve these people in their creative process to author and create Skyline curriculum. That's the work right now. We believe that if we're successful in this work, it can then inform tools that would serve our teachers in phase 2 and then our students in phase 3. But we're very intentionally thinking about kind of impact and risk and safety. And so we're starting not with 25,000 students, but with 25 very specific designers that we want to support. So the next couple of slides are not very impressive. They're just from a few kind of tests we're doing with Gemini Gems. Last week we finished hiring a couple of AI engineers that are going to work with us so that we can take these ideas into our Google Cloud and think about how we can deploy them in the space where these designers are working. So we've been exploring how we can keep the designer, the human, engaged in the loop as they evaluate whether materials they're creating are valuable. Because we've been building curriculum for a minute, we have some really solid rubrics that tell us what we think good curriculum is. So we're exploring how an artificial intelligence can give us insight as we review curricular materials. You can see how this could be useful for those designers. So we're looking at the ability of AI tools to identify curricular materials, review them, and then collate that information in a way that's human readable and engaging to our design team. We're also trying to think about the other end of the process, the creative process when we are creating learning experiences. Right now we've designed a kind of interview agent that has a conversation with you about what you think should happen in the learning. It doesn't create any learning materials. Instead, it nudges you in the direction of the work that you're already doing. I want to talk a little bit about the infrastructure that we have set up in the school district that allows for some of this work to happen and to go on. So we have an AI governance system where we have a steering committee and then 3 subcommittees that fall under that. How many folks are familiar with kind of the K-12 education space, or maybe even higher ed, right? So you may be familiar that we've got a lot of silos. A lovely thing about this AI moment, which is terrifying, but also lovely, is that it's pushing us out of our silos. So now I'm in the instructional subcommittee with some of the smartest people on all the different content areas, science, mathematics, literacy, the directors of those fields for our district, and we're speaking together about what is our instructional vision around AI? What would be meaningful to pilot on a district-wide level? And that's possible because we have this kind of governance structure. And we're really focusing on literacy first. So we have a very, very small team that I'm on that also includes teachers and school leaders, not just district leaders. We don't have so much of a policy as we have a guidebook, which is reviewed every quarter. It's public, so you can read it and you can see how it changes and evolves and improves. This new version that's about to come out is going to have a lot more guidance for families and how we talk about AI in our communities, because it shows up at home. We've set up a micro-credential pathway, starting with some asynchronous training, just to get some kind of a base under you, and then get you thinking about what artificial intelligence even is. But what we really want to do is build professional learning communities. So we launched a couple of those 2 weeks ago, where groups of equal parts teachers and school leaders are talking to experts in artificial intelligence and asking deep questions, not about one particular tool, but instead about mindsets. Like, what does it mean to have AI in the classroom? If we are going to be choosing tools to procure, what should we be thinking about? And how do we think about it critically and build that knowledge together? In the short term, for back to school, I'm working really fast on those clicks and those getting rid of those login screens. We're making sure that all of the common sense education, DigCit, and AI literacy curriculum is available in Skyline for all of our teachers. The way I try to explain it to folks is I hope that if the teachers do reach for an AI button, the button they end up pushing is a literacy button and not a, I guess maybe I should buy this product and sign on, and then, like Dan was describing, be disappointed a week later. But this is just the beginning, because we're trying to form a vision around this and see how this integrates into the curriculum. Like I said, we have our guidebook and website. You can grab that information there if you want to with your phone, but it's public, and I invite you to bookmark it and kind of follow along in the work we do, maybe pitch in. The key thing here, right, is that we're trying to encourage that innovation. We're trying to keep updating it and also point to our existing policies. Something that we heard in a bunch of the presentations earlier today is how unmoored we can feel in this AI moment, and how some of the big players and the big money is trying to knock us, or especially our teachers, off their feet and cause them to act in a way that maybe is not the smartest. So we're trying to point to existing policies, laws, and procedures that we already have in place and build on that and kind of lend support to that. Our badge pathway, right now, we have about 200 people who've earned the first one, which you can just do anytime it's asynchronous. But the next two, you have to do them with other humans in shared space, whether it's over a Google Meet or in a room together, and that's really important to us. So I'll kind of wrap things up with a kind of call to action here. And I should have asked kind of when we started, but how many folks are products of public schools like me? Okay, so this is important. It's important to me. There's a bunch of organizations that are already supporting us, that are already working with us. Those professional learning communities are being facilitated by folks from Stanford Craft and from AI for Education, for example. My first ask is that we ask, how will we humans, how will our intelligence improve? Right? Is co-intelligence, like that famous Ethan Malik book, is that even possible? And if it is, how do we make sure we build it and not something else? And even more importantly, I've got 2 kids. The one is already in CPS, the other one's about to be. When they're graduating, what world are they going into? And did those classrooms that they're in right now prepare them for that world? I hope that some of this is informative, it's interesting, and most of all, that it inspires you to reach out and connect to our work and help build this with us for the benefit of the kids in the picture. Those are real CPS kids, and also selfishly my kid too. So there's an email we set up so it's easy to remember, ai@cps.edu. I invite you to connect, whether it's today or via this, and thank you so much for having me here.
Dan, when you were talking about the membrane, I was reminded of like Eleanor Duckworth, who's writing about children having wonderful ideas in learning spaces and the art of teaching being really coming to see and understand how children have wonderful ideas. And I'm thinking about in all of your talks, the when we bring technology into learning spaces, the configurations of teachers, children, and technology, and how oftentimes those screens become barriers or that get in the way. It's the logins, it's the, and then as you go up to the level of the district, the technology configures how we relate to one another. And so I'm thinking about the art of teaching, the art of building relationships in classrooms, the art of discussing. I'm not sure exactly what the question here is, but it's making me wonder how you think about, like, I always think of when we talk about technology-rich learning spaces, I always question the rich part of it. And I'm kind of curious how you think about that in your work. Sydney, Alex, Dan, all of you.
Sure, yeah. I think that education is just one of those worlds where everyone kind of has a sense of what it is at some level, because we've all been a product of it, been a part of it, and it's just very easy, again, to believe very seductive, comforting lies about what goes on there. So for me, like I really try to anchor on various just concrete images for me. It literally is an image, you know, of a teacher and a kid connecting across unfathomable distances around maturity, intellect, age, race, gender, all these things, to connect across that and say, I see you. Like, you know, this state of California has endowed in me a credential to say you are valuable or not in certain ways, and to use that in ways to say, yes, I see your value is so powerful. And all these other abstractions, the technology, the policies, you know, the master schedule, all of that, it's just so easy to fall into that world and forget about that single transcendent moment. And I want to keep that moment in my mind all the time.
Yeah, I think it's multifaceted. I think there are some actual problems you can solve with technology, and you can take a problem-focused attitude. I think what we see a lot of is a technocentric attitude. These are the problems technology can solve. Let's reconfigure ourselves around it. I'm really excited about a view and to this idea of richness. Maybe richness is not the right word. Is imagining new possibilities with technology, and it does take. It's difficult because imagination and seeing those ideas through takes time to incubate. But that's what I'm excited about, while understanding that there's actually real problems. And if AI can help a teacher spend 3 hours less on Sunday evening with some kind of curriculum prep, and that may be a good thing, but it can also expansively maybe expand how students think about AI and how students collaborate or something like that.
Thanks. So I sense that there's like so many different opinions in the room, but we've been vibing and coalescing on like dunking on some of these wrapper AI products and the things that are just like kind of first to market but not fully baked, because we're very thoughtful and critical people, and that's lovely. The challenge in my space is that as much as I resonate with the slides we started with, where, you know, tutoring maybe isn't it, you know, that 2 sigma problem of Bloom's like is real, and we have real and serious conversations about what does it mean if I have a 5th grader who's at a 3rd grade level. And on a district level, folks are trying to solve for that and are going to be impressed by AI tools that offer to solve that. So if there's another way, a more robust, intellectually curious way to engage with it, it's kind of on us to come up with it, because we have to deliver not just for that, like not just for my kid who maybe has a ton of resources and curiosity and inventiveness, but for like every single kid in the city.
Are we allowed to respond? Is that no one's done this yet?
I thought
Is
it was
that,
really, I thought it was really
very
sweet that you
provocative.
guys rushed off stage so that you could see each other's slides. So I'm kind of also curious if you have questions for each other. Like, go for it.
I just think that it's so well put that the problems are so keenly felt by so many actors in the education space. I also just want to point out, I think resonant with John Warner's point earlier, like what are the solutions that are ruled in bounds? Like what solutions get in front of the administrators? And it winds up being ones that are really consonant with the goals of the business community, the technology community that has not had a hit since the smartphone and needs this to be a hit. And so that's why a lot of the funding gets attached to AI, and why the solutions that go in front of administrators or voters are not around reducing class sizes or increasing the strength of the social safety net. It's about how can we get you to, send more money into the Azure cloud computing system.
Yeah, that's a great question for you, Alex. Sort of like where you sit, you get pressure from both the teachers coming up saying, we want this in our classroom, and you sort of have to be a little bit of a gatekeeper. But then you also have pressure down from the outside saying, adopt this, adopt that, sort of, how do you see those tensions playing out?
Are there any Amazon, Google folks in the room? I think it's challenging for us because, like, yeah, we obviously see the political forces, we see the big money, and also when I was drafting those calls to action, I was making that deck for ASU GSV where I spent a couple of days, kind of pitching to these folks because they are holding the purse strings for what we see as a way to enable success for thousands of kids. One of the ways that agents, the things we talked about, will work and support our curriculum designers is it's going to run on Google Cloud or maybe Amazon's cloud or on something so that it truly interfaces with their work and isn't yet another chatbot kind of login for them. So it's a challenging space.
Yeah, I'm going to ask pull the learning scientist theory question. If Papert and Shank were both people who had kind of a model of learning that was you learned when you were motivated, you faced obstacles, building things, and then you explored and saw how things were. There were principles of the thinking that goes on that leads to learning. I was wondering what you would boil down the things that drive you to design the kinds of solutions you are for each of the problems you've approached. And when you're designing the coordinate system, what was the learning principle going on in there? What was the learning principle going on in the AI literacy, going on in the self-driving cars? I just wanted to feel what's the part of you that gets maybe only a few seconds a week to become a learning scientist, or sometimes more. I just wondering what those were, just to feel for that.
Yeah. So for us, there were two. One was centered around productive uncertainty in designing the curriculum. But the second one was how to do it in a more socio-cognitive conflict, where kids come up with different ideas and they actually have to negotiate. And that's where we saw a role for AI to help them understand these diversity of ideas and how people thinking of things differently and going back to differences can lead to more creative solutions. And we measured this through the semantic distances in the ideas. And that actually is a positive correlator of how well their problems, how well their designs functioned. And that was kind of interesting. So thanks for bringing that up, because at the end of the day, paying homage to those deep principles is really critical. And I think that's what's sometimes missing from a lot of products. And I ask, where's the theory of change? And they're what? Theory? Huh?
Yeah, thanks for the question. Super fun to geek out on this sort of thing. So there's two principles that we try to weave throughout our core curriculum. It's like an everyday thing. It's a huge obligation we feel. One of them is Bruner's maxim that anything can be taught in some disciplinarily honest way to a 5-year-old. So we have all these math ideas in middle school and high school and K-5, and we want to pose them at the start in a way that is very accessible to any kid in a very concrete, sensory kind of way. We'll ask kids to scribble a sketch of a graph rather than graph it algebraically, let's say, or precisely. And then they see something respond to their sketched scribble of a graph, and they can revise that. So we're always looking for the ways to create a concrete experience that's accessible on the realm of the senses. The other is Gershon Harrell's work around intellectual need, itself kind of a redefinition of cognitive disequilibrium, where we want to have kids teleport into the mind of the person who invented an idea at the moment of need. So for instance, when you first encountered a spreadsheet formula and you went from saying oh wow, I will have to create 100 rows of this spreadsheet to, oh wow, I create one kind of abstract formulation of the relationship and it's done. That's that moment of need for computation. We're always looking for, in this math, why did someone invent it? What need were they experiencing at that moment? Can we give kids a taste of that in the moment? Thanks. What was the name that you just said? Gershon Harrell. Intellectual need.
Is there time for one more question? Yeah, so I have a comment for Alexander and then a closely related question for Dan. So Alexander, my comment would be that I really love what you're doing with the learning communities because it can be hard to really access teacher perspectives, and especially with big tech running the AI show, teacher perspectives aren't taken into account. And those learning communities are a good example of a way that you can take advantage of your position in a school district to have access to those teacher perspectives, which I think is great. Dan, my question for you, you're really in big tech, and Amplify Learning is staffed by former teachers largely, which is wonderful. I'm actually friends with a number of people who work for Amplify. But you don't have as much of a direct line to those teachers. And how do you rise to that challenge and make sure that teacher perspectives inform your use of AI and your development of your products?
Sure, I'll take the first part. Yeah, we see if we're saying we're committed to human-centered AI, so we have to really think about how do we center the humans. I think creating communities is something we know something about. We're focused on communities and community schools. I think the challenge that I'd love some insight from any and all of you is, how do we do that at scale? We launched 2, they each have 30 people, so that's 60 people, and just the adult humans, I think we have about 30,000. And we want to find a way to reach them, but in a meaningful way and engage them in that conversation. In the meantime, there's the market and the swirl of information around them that maybe isn't sending the same messages that our very thoughtful partners are in those PLCs. I guess I'm just sending the question back to you all.
I just want to name again, my perspective is that we need to create that connection to the classroom, whether you're in research or industry like myself. And so I'm in classes, getting my butt kicked by 8th graders. We have routinized classroom visits across the country, processes in place for that. And we do hire tons of former classroom teachers, more than the industry average, which usually treats them like subject matter experts, contract hires, not benefited. We have them as full status employees, and that's been essential for our work feeling ecologically credible to teachers and the work they do. There's one more question. I thought I saw someone popping up.
I guess it's a similar question about scale and the learning sciences. And I think it's been across the whole kind of conversation. What's the kind of disconnect between some of the stuff we're talking about what we want learning and what AI should be and what's actually happening on the ground in terms of people seeking these things out? Yes, I should use ChatGPT, I should use this, but not really for the purpose of education. What do we need to do as a learning science community to better connect so that some of these ideas can scale better or resist against other ideas coming in?
As our learning sciences community representative, do you want to take that, Sydney?
I mean, I think the Bloom 2 Sigma is a great example, right? Because if you dig down at the data, there's no 2 Sigma really. If you look at the experimental conditions, yet that translated into tutoring systems getting 2 Sigma, and that directly leads to chat-based tutoring systems. But at the same time, I want to echo some comments here. I have data from school districts for some of our other research with 9th graders attesting at 6th graders in math. And then the question becomes, what do you do at that point? And I think that leads some of the Silicon Valley folks to come in and be like, hey, remember 2 Sigma guy, here's a solution. It's so and so. And so that's what I'm also grappling with. As much as I like to think about some of these ideals and these idealized learning environments as envisioned as we want to co-create, at the same time, I feel an obligation to the kid whose society is essentially left behind. And that's the struggle I always grapple with. And I come right back to the tutoring model versus the whole person development and learning model.
So I'm going to push just a little bit because I think we still struggle, but to win, so we know this gap has happened. This is not a new issue, right? In terms of, hey, there's people who are left behind. So how do we need to think about things differently, particularly since technology and technology can define in many different ways. How do we have an opportunity now to really challenge how we think about the use of technology and the way we do it and bringing along the public with us too, right? Are we still mimicking the same things we did in the past? And thus we'll see the same thing.
Yeah, so I can give you one example, and actually this is in Chicago Public Schools. It's human-led small group tutoring, where kids basically are getting a second math class where they work with individual tutors, and to scale that effectively, because it's really expensive, on every other day, they kind of work with an online math platform. And then the question where the technology comes in interesting ways is one, basically helping these tutors and developing principles of learning and from the learning sciences to get like 19-year-old kids who do these tutoring, and at the same time, seeing what's happening in the individual learning to bring it back into the space and actually using some technology to facilitate better discussions in those small groups. So that's kind of like where we've netted out in how to make those sessions a little better, keep the human centered, but see the place for technology. And that's just one example that I've actually seen and I'm kind of excited to work on personally.
All right. Thank you so much. Let's please thank Dan, Alex, Sydney.